I think you'll see it before, and that is really how we get to a million. Um, a lot of people think, it's going to go up slowly. It's going to be boring, and there are stretches of boring price movements in Bitcoin's history, but then you have really intense, fiery upheavals where it just goes up like 17x in a year.
Samson Mow is back, and he's not holding back. In this explosive forecast, Mow doubles down on his $1 million Bitcoin prediction. He warns of omega candles, massive green surges that will melt faces and portfolios alike. Most people still don't understand what's coming, but after watching this video, you will. Mow also unpacks the rise of stablecoins, not just as digital dollars, but as tools of global financial warfare. As the U.S. races to weaponize the dollar digitally, cracks are forming in the legacy system. And get this, recent moves by BlackRock, Fidelity, and even Japan's pension giants show a quiet but seismic shift into Bitcoin. Meanwhile, inflation's sneaky return and rate cut rumors are fueling a perfect storm for crypto. So buckle up. We're connecting the dots between Samson's prophecy, the global economy, and Bitcoin's meteoric path. Stay till the end. The final insight might just change how you see money forever. Smash that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe. Let's get back to more insights from Samson Mow.
And the way I see it playing out is when we hit different price levels, like right now where we've topped at 109-ish, and when we go to 200, that could be a bit of a slog. We'll see, TBD, because everything has changed so much with all of this stuff happening in the US. But when we get to 200 or 0.2M, I think you'll see another massive jump, because the world at $200,000 per Bitcoin is a very different world than 109 or 84,000 or whatever we're at right now. You're getting to a substantial amount of gold's market cap, and I think at that point you're either the second or thirdest largest asset on the planet. And I believe that changes perception. So Bitcoin at 200,000 is going to look very different. And then it's not like, it's hard for it to go up by another 100,000. So you go up to 300, right? Mm-hmm. And you see, a couple more omega candles getting us to 500. And at that point, we've reached, half of gold's market cap. And at that point, I think you start to demonetize gold, because people with allocation to gold will see that, Bitcoin just went from 0 to 500,000 in maybe 17 years, maybe 18 years. We'll see. But that is a really crazy realization that will dawn on them. And then you start to demonetize gold, and then you just double again to get to 1 million. So that's kind of the path I'm seeing, that things change as Bitcoin levels up. It's like Dragon Ball Z, right? It's like, it's not like Goku gradually gets to SSJ 3, right? It's like SSJ, boom, SSJ 2, and then 3. It's just step changes in power level. And it's the same for Bitcoin. When you get to 200, it's different. 300 is different. 500 is different. And then 1 million is different too. So that's how I foresee these changes coming. And, if Bitcoin is able to get to 200 or 250, which people often predict, why wouldn't it just go up another 100, 150 and go to 500, right? Like the prediction from Josh Mandel is we'll hit 444,000 this year, right? Mm-hmm. If you hit 444,000, what's to stop it from just going again to 1 million? In my view, there's nothing stopping it at that point.
What can you share with maybe your dealings with the IMF, how things are working, whether it's, even World Bank, the Eurozone, EU entities, the IMF, what are you seeing? Obviously El Salvador is dealing with this right now, right? We have this back and forth going on. It's all over, Bitcoiners' radar, obviously right now. What are you seeing when it comes to this dynamic back and forth between these global entities and nation states trying to secure their freedom?
So we did see a case of this in Suriname. So we were engaging with the central bank there to allocate 1% to Bitcoin. And this is before the SBR, right? Like we kind of knew it's going to happen. And we were telling them you could do this. And they were interested to do it. And then after we left, we actually went there to meet with them. And then after we left, the World Bank went to visit, and then everything went quiet. So you don't really get to see a lot of things happening out in the open, right? All of this economic hitmanning is largely done quietly and behind the scenes, and it's just exertion of force from behind closed door and quietly. But the interesting thing with the IMF in El Salvador was kind of out in the open, very public and very transparent, right? El Salvador passed their Bitcoin law and went all in on Bitcoin, and you could see that it's a struggle between a sovereign country and one of these supranational organizations, and it was very much publicly aired. So that was a very novel case where you can actually see the battle in the public eye. Right, they're releasing research, quote unquote, and publishing articles in various formats and newspapers, criticizing the adoption and explaining the risks, because they can't really just do that kind of quiet quelling of the rebellion. They are limited in when they can apply leverage and what leverage they can apply. So yeah, I mean, it was very interesting, and now we see that they have an agreement with El Salvador, and it seems El Salvador agreed begrudgingly, but you can see it all playing out. And the question really is, how much longer can that go on as more countries look towards Bitcoin as the solution to their problems, which it is, and the kind of normalization of Bitcoin strategies, especially from the US. Like, if even before the SBR, you could look to the ETFs and say the largest asset manager on the planet has launched a Bitcoin ETF. Why wouldn't a poor country allocate some of their capital, some of their reserves to Bitcoin in some way, just as a prudent asset management strategy, which, in theory, every central bank of every country should be doing if that is their mandate, to stabilize prices and ensure economic stability. But that is not enough, actually. But the SBR, I think, is very different because it is direct government acquisition. And I think once that really kicks into high gear, the executive order now just says don't sell and acquire in budget neutral strategies. But when they do actually have legislation that says go and buy, or if Howard Lutnick puts together one of those budget neutral strategies and starts executing acquisition, then I think we'll start to see a rush. And that rush is likely going to be something that we haven't ever seen before. It is going to trigger that rampage of capital into Bitcoin. And that's when you see Omega candles, and that's when you see even more volatility. We could go up 300,000 and then down 200,000 in a couple days.
At that point, when people's faces are being melted off, in essence, and people can't believe their eyes, when do people stop rejecting dollars?
I think it's either at the 500,000 mark or 1 million mark. Somewhere in that range is when people stop wanting fiat. So there's a lot of models out there. Saylor has his Bitcoin 24 model, and then there's Power Law, and there's all these other models. None of them actually choose a break point. But you're right, there is a breaking point. It's not going to coexist forever. It just... I think that's a pipe dream. We'll always have this exchange rate, and we'll be trading Bitcoin for $100 million, and we'll make new fiat with more zeros on it. I don't think so, because Bitcoin is a far superior technology. It's like 100x, if not 1,000x, on anything we've ever had in the past. Right? Being able to transport value for a few dollars instantly across the planet with finality. That is a big game changer. And most people don't understand that. Most people don't even know what finality is, right? Like, they don't understand that when you pay with your credit card, that's not final yet. It's finalized weeks, maybe months later. But, it's almost like all of this stuff about how money works is a lost art. And again, that goes back to what we talked about earlier. Why do people find it not interesting, because they're just so far removed from all of these things that it's like a different universe.
So in this vein here, Tether, it's on Lightning now. Obviously, they're down in El Salvador. This is, we have the Trump administration talking about making stablecoins a part of, obviously, the dollar and what's all happening here, and they want in on that. Are we entering a free banking era potentially? Is Tether really going to prolong dollar dominance? This is it's a contrast to what you just laid out. So how do you see, we have bit bonds and volcano bonds that's competing against regular government bonds. How do you see this? Is it what you just laid out and that's it? Or is it like, how do you see these competing? Because it feels like there's some clashing that's going to be, they're in competition at the end of the day, right? So.
Yeah, well, yes and no. So I don't think stablecoins like Tether are really directly competing. I mean, Tether is also mining Bitcoin with their yield from the T-bills, right? So it's sort of like they're participating in this market, providing a service that people want. And there's like 400 million some odd users for Tether around the world. You can't just remove that and say, everyone's going to use Bitcoin, because most people don't want Bitcoin right now. And that's just a fact that we have to acknowledge. They just want dollars, whether it's physical dollars in their local bank account, or a digital dollar from Venmo or PayPal, if they can get those accounts, or a digital dollar via Tether. It's just different transport mechanisms for that same instrument, a digitized dollar. So I think you have to serve that market. And I've heard people say that stablecoins are an attack on Bitcoin, or stablecoins are a CBDC. But you're kind of reaching there. At least there is a step between government and the money. So they couldn't just tell the central bank, freeze these accounts, which they would have done if they could have done. But they had to go to the actual bank with some order from a court or a judge, and then attempt to freeze them with some reason. And I think it's the same with stablecoins. The central banks won't be able to do that. So it's still a private issuer of a dollar instrument. And as for prolonging and expanding dollar dominance, I don't really think it would do anything outside of just, the current system. Like, if they didn't exist, I don't think we would get into Bitcoin faster. I think someone would create some sort of instrument. Maybe it would be an eCash, or who knows, right? But there'll be something filling that market void for the past decade or so. And that would be the thing that kind of holds it over, because there is just demand for this product. There is at least $115 billion worth of demand for this type of instrument. And I don't think you can really deny that, right? If it wasn't Tether, it would be someone else, right? The demand will be met by some sort of product. But even like Paulo and the Tether guys, they don't seem to think that the dollar is going to last forever. It's just an interim step on the road to Bitcoin adoption. But it is still a step that's needed, because a lot of debts are still denominated in dollars, and people are looking to settle those debts. And it's still mostly the unit of account for trade. Like, if you're buying something from a supplier, you kind of, are settling in dollars, at least in a lot of the world. I think there's a push to get off of that and settle in other currencies like the RMB. I know China would love for that. But the question is really, which unit do people want to settle in as their unit of account? And I think it's still the dollar.
And that's a wrap on today's journey into the mind of Samson Mow. His vision for Bitcoin's explosive rise in 2025 is nothing short of legendary. With the stars aligning, mass adoption, Bitcoin's strategic reserve, digital dollars, and unstoppable momentum. Could we really be on the verge of multiple Omega candles lighting up the charts? We want to hear from you. Do you believe we're headed toward a $1 million Bitcoin? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's get the conversation going. If you got value from this breakdown, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe so you never miss the next big wave in crypto. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one, where the future of finance unfolds, one block at a time.